Kia ora, good evening. There is to be no referendum on changing the New Zealand flag at this September's general election, but the public can expect one before the following election should National regain office in September.
During a speech today at Victoria University, Prime Minister John Key said that the design of the current flag symbolised a colonial and post-colonial era whose time has passed. Mr Key is proposing that the country take one more step in the evolution of a modern New Zealand by acknowledging our independence through a new flag. Should National retain the government benches, Mr Key says a cross-party group of MPs would be formed to recommend the best referenda process, and an independent steering group would ensure that the public was consulted and was able to contribute to the design process.
Despite strong economic growth, government tax take revenue continued to track below forecast in the 7 months to the end of January, according to Finance Minister Bill English. Government's financial statements for the 7 months show the operating deficit before gains and losses at $1.06 billion, almost $640 million larger than forecast in the half-year update in December. This was mainly due to core Crown revenue at $38.3 billion, coming in $830 million below forecast. Mr English says shifting government revenue makes forecasting difficult and the target to surplus in 2014-15 is a challenging goal. Fish and Game New Zealand have released the Farming and the Environment Survey.
The survey of over 3,000 New Zealanders over the age of 18 was conducted independently by Horizon Research Limited. When asked, 37% of the respondents said the country was too dependent on dairy farming, with 31% saying the growth of intensive dairy farming has gone too far. Southland Fish and Game manager Maurice Rodway is quick to point out that most Southland dairy farmers are responsible and that urban dwellers should also be conscious of what impact they make on the region's waterways. Mr Rodway says the political timing of the release of the survey could not have been better, coming on the day a general election date was announced.
I think that was intentional to bring it out at this stage before the election was coming, just to alert the political parties to the feelings of the community about the environment and about economic development. And there needs to be a balance, and the environment is very important to New Zealanders. So while we need economic development, and I think everybody realises that, we've got to protect the environment as well, and I think that's what most of the people in New Zealand think.
Yes, 9 out of 10 of the recipients said they identify themselves as New Zealanders with that outdoor environment. Was that a surprising result, though? We are a bunch of outdoory people, aren't we?
Yes, 9 out of 10 is very high. I would have thought with an increasing urban population and people, watching rugby and that sort of thing, that was perhaps not be quite that high, but certainly it's a very important part of New Zealand's character and image, and I think that's what people want to be protected.
And they seem quite switched on watching the numbers of dairy farms and the intensification of cattle. That's obviously a concern. The high 30s percentile saying that they feel that it may have gone a bit far.
Yeah, that's right. The dairy industry is in a bit of a difficult situation because it doesn't take much for people to get a bad impression. You could be following behind a stock truck that's leaking effluent on the road, or you can drive past a slurry tanker that's spreading effluent and you get a whiff of it, and you think, oh, that's not very nice. But overall, the dairy industry has really made big improvements over the last few years. As I said before, in terms of dairy effluent application, fencing off streams. But the big issue is the loss of nitrates through into the groundwater, and that's one that's our biggest challenge for the management of the adverse effects of this industry.
We have to say that also recipients that were working on dairy farms or managing them have said that they are more conscious also, so there is that industry responsibility.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of really good responsible dairy farmers out there, and the majority are. The number of non-compliance incidents that have been occurring lately has dropped, and the organisations such as Fonterra, Dairy NZ have really grabbed the ball, and they are working hard to make improvements.
It's fairly apolitical, isn't it? We mentioned that it came on the announcement of an election date, but it doesn't matter what political colour you are. It sounds like a lot of people like to fish, and so it makes it apolitical.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's right. It's right across the political spectrum. There are not too many people that don't like to get out into the outdoors and go to a river and expect to see it to be clear and clean, and so that they can swim if they want to or have a fish.
The seasonally adjusted value of electronic card spending in the retail industries increased 0.9% in February 2014.
Spending increased in 5 of the 6 retail industries in February 2014. Durables had the biggest rise, up 1.3% or $15 million. Fuel fell 1.8% or $14 million. And hospitality gained 1.5% or $11 million. Statistics New Zealand figures show the total value of electronic card spending increased by 0.6%. In unadjusted terms, 1.8 million transactions were made across all industries in February, with an average value of $53. Total spending across all transactions was $5.7 billion.
Stay with us after the break. A helping hand for the city's homeless, and a visiting international writer sees huge potential for motorcycle tourism in New Zealand. Welcome back. Meat and dairy are behind the latest manufacturing boom in the December quarter, with production up 15%.
The total volume of manufacturing sales rose 5.7% during the quarter, creating a record rise. Recent trade figures showed a 23% gain in dairy export volumes, while meat exports rose 5.5%. Other manufacturing sectors, excluding meat and dairy, also showed increases in the December quarter, with a 0.9% rise in volumes overall after seasonable adjustments. The value of manufacturing rose 6.3% in the fourth quarter, or 1.1% once dairy and meat were removed. The value of dairy and meat sales rose 18%, according to Statistics New Zealand.
Being confronted for the first time with seeing a homeless person in Invercargill has prompted a local woman to take action by establishing an extra support avenue to complement services already in place. The exact number of homeless people in Invercargill is not known, but around 124 are registered as having no fixed abode. I spoke to Helping Hand Southland founder Kelly Blomfield about the effects on people with no permanent living arrangements and her desire to help.
Well, it could possibly make it hard for, if they're applying for jobs, they don't necessarily have a point of contact. If you want government assistance in any way, shape or form, you need to have a fixed address, you need to have a contact number, and some of these people just aren't able to get it.
So there's a few hurdles that they have to jump through to even get assistance from government, for instance, getting a birth certificate and having a bank account to actually put those funds through.
Absolutely. To get a birth certificate, I think, costs about $36. That's, even to an average family, that can be a lot of money. To somebody that's not even getting financial assistance, that's just insurmountable.
So the Helping Hand Southland group, what are you hoping to achieve out of it?
Basically just what we would like to provide, a hand up for people that require it. It's not a handout. We don't want people to think that we're providing them charity and sort of belittling them in any way, shape or form. It's just recognising that there is a need there and trying to fill the need somehow.
And how will you be able to do that? Is it financial or with material products?
To start with, it's probably going to be more the material product side of things. Winter's coming, it's going to be cold. There's people that are going to need jackets and jerseys and socks and warm shoes, that sort of thing. Eventually, I've got some pretty long range plans of what I'd like to achieve, and financial would definitely be the way I'd like it to go. At the start, every little bit counts, and any little thing to take a bit of strain off somebody is got to be worth it.
Can you let us know what some of those plans might be for the long term?
I'd like to somehow fundraise to get together or join in with another organisation that's already working on trying to get a shelter built, just providing meals. There's a lot of different things, giving them either a postal address that they can use to make things easier for them, a prepaid cell phone if need be, clothing for a job interview, getting their hair cut. I mean, there are a lot of things that can be done, and it's just little tiny things to people, but it will make the world a difference. If anybody's got clothes laying around, if you've got jackets or shoes or things that you don't need or require anymore, there are people out there that would very much appreciate it. And if you just have a look on Helping Hand Southland Facebook page, there are addresses and phone numbers there, and any help would be much appreciated.
Visiting motorcycle writer and filmmaker Peter Starr was in the region today, researching an item he's writing on touring New Zealand for the Motorcyclist magazine. Mr Starr raced triumphs professionally in the UK in the early 1960s before becoming a DJ in the United States at the height of Beatlemania. Since then he's become an award-winning filmmaker, a stuntman, a writer and a campaigner for prostate cancer awareness. Hunter Andrews caught up with Mr Starr as he inspected Burt Munro's Indian motorcycle.
I went to America in 1965, in the spring of '65, became a rock and roll disc jockey on the radio, and because it was very in to be English, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones and so on. I had a pretty good career of 6 years in radio, and then got back into motorcycling in '73 as a filmmaker, and made a film called The Bad Rock, which is about the ISDT two-day trial. Since then I've made over 40 films on motorcycle racing, and the most famous of which is Take It to the Limit.
Which won awards, don't be modest, it's an award-winning film.
Yes, it won the gold at the Chicago Award and the silver at the Houston International Film Festival. I've actually won 14 international awards for my films, including awards in Paris and New York, Chicago, LA and Houston film festivals. And I wrote a book about it. That whole 20-year experience of making motorcycle films is called Taking It to the Limit, 20 years of making motorcycle movies. And all the camera mounts that we built sidecars that were specially designed for movies like Apollo 13, Batman and Robin, Lethal Weapon series. We built bikes for those with...
What films you worked on as well?
Right, as a stunt rider, yeah. In 1999, I had a bad accident on the road, quit everything. That was the end of that career. And 4 years later, I was diagnosed with cancer. And for the last 10 years, I've done nothing but study cancer and write about it and produce the documentary about it. It's called Surviving Prostate Cancer Without Surgery, Drugs, or Radiation. And we have a foundation that I head up. And I speak to men's groups everywhere about what I've learned and what men can really do if they want to reverse the disease and avoid impotence, incontinence, and hopefully the cancer coming back.
What do you think of New Zealand? Is there potential here for us to build on that motorcycle tourism?
Oh, there's no doubt. I'll be back next year almost certainly with at least 10 Americans. I mean, wait till they read the article that I write about it. Motorcyclist is the second biggest motorcycle magazine in the world. We have 230,000 printed magazines every month, and about 500,000 unique visitors to the website every month, so it's a big concern. The article originally was about touring. The article's now called 2 Weeks Is Not Enough. No, I'd come back in a heartbeat. And when I had the chance to come here, I said, I've got to go to the Burt Munro Museum, not knowing that it was in this incredible hardware store. I mean, this is like every guy should come here just to look at the hardware store, let alone the motorcycles. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Very accessible, aren't they?
Oh, it's wonderful.
Next up on sport, we catch up with Southern Steel coach Janine Southby after the team's second consecutive loss. From the news team, it's good night.